Good evening, everyone. As it is now 6 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order, as this is the first Environment, Infrastructure, and Transportation Policies Committee meeting of 2023. We'll start by electing a chair and vice chair. So I'll start by asking if there are any volunteers or nominations for the position of chair. Councillor Shaves.
Sorry, my button was hidden. I'd like to nominate the Deputy Mayor, Chinani, for chair position, please.
Excellent. And Councillor Chinani, do you accept the nomination? All right, great. Can I ask for a seconder for the motion? Councillor Stephen, excellent. And I will ask, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Excellent. And before I turn things over to the new chair, I will ask for any nominations or volunteers for the position of vice chair. Councillor Glenn. Excellent. Councillor Stephen, do you accept the nomination? All right, so we have a nodding head there. I'll ask for a seconder for Councillor Stephen. I see Councillor Chinani. Any other nominations? Seeing none, in that case, I will call the vote. All in favor of Councillor Stephen as vice chair. Excellent, that passes unanimously. And I will now turn the meeting over to the new chair. I'll invite you to come and take a seat up front here with me.
So I'll call the meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. And can I get an approval of the agenda? Councillor Gillen, can I get a seconder? Oh, I see him there. Councillor Tozo. Can I have a vote? It's unanimous. Can I also for confirmation in minutes? It doesn't matter since nobody here was.
That's correct.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Shaves. Oh, sure. I'll bring this closer. There we go. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Tozo. And all in favor? That passes. So are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing as none, there's no delegations, no briefings. On to business. So there's an information update on the Kingston Regional Biosolids and Biogas Facility Municipal Class Environmental Assessment. The report of the President and CEO of Utilities Kingston is attached. And can I ask for staff to introduce the report?
Through you. Thank you very much. This report is for information, and the purpose of the report is just to identify where we are with the project right now, and that we're proceeding to step 2 of the work with Dillon Consulting to complete the next steps of the environmental assessment. I think the report speaks to a bit of the history and the master plan that was completed through 2017 to 2020. off of the master plan. We sought consent and approval from City Council to proceed to look at Knox Farm to develop the preferred solution from the master plan. We received that consent in the fall of 2021. Since then, we've hired Dillon Consulting, and we've been working our way through the EA, and we've just completed step 1, and we've brought this information report to identify that there's been no major barriers identified with the suitability of Knox Farm, and we're proceeding with step 2, which will include public consultation. And we felt it was prudent to come and provide information and an update to EITP. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the committee members? Councillor Stevens?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate that we're getting a heads up on this before it's released, so thank you very much for that. I found the report really helpful in looking over past ones as well. One thing that I just wanted to ask, and again, I realize you're still early on in this process, and this is just for information purposes. One of the things it talked about in the report was talking about securing like a reliable stream, so to speak, of organic waste or feedstock, I guess it said. So my understanding is that basically we need a steady stream of a lot of organic waste in order to make this work. Is that correct?
Through you, yes.
Okay, so just follow up. It sounds like the city of Kingston itself might not be able to provide all of that. Is it an area that we're looking at for a program like this potentially?
That's correct. So from the master plan, we've identified a goal of this project would be it to be a regional facility. And the feedstock that we have available today in our control from both the wastewater treatment plants and the city's green bin waste is a reliable source. So we do have some of that feedstock that's within our care and control right now. However, to make it viable and economical, we know that we're going to need to secure a greater amount of that. Otherwise, it probably won't be economically feasible to invest in a facility like this and run it as a business. And so we would be, as part of this in step 1, we did reach out to a number of municipalities and commercial industrial businesses to understand if they would be interested. And we did get some interest, but in no means is that a promise from those folks that they are interested in bringing it here, and more work to determine and secure that in the future would be required.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question. So in the limited research I've done on this now, I was curious, it sounds like a really interesting project. It seems as though in Ontario, a lot of sorry, I'm going to say the wrong thing, please correct me, the dry and wet anaerobic digestion is used with dairy farms. Do you know of any municipalities who've been able to divert waste the way we're talking about doing?
So through you, excuse me, there are successful projects in the province. Most of them are, if not all of them, are privately owned. And I would say anaerobic digestion is widely used and is used for municipal organic waste. So other municipalities from their green bin waste have anaerobic digesters. This one would be unique because we're talking about co-digestion of sludge from the wastewater treatment plants as well as food wastes. And so there are ones out there that are successful, but there's also been a number of municipal projects that have investigated this but haven't taken it all the way through, and there is a certain failure rate.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I thought of one more thing. I apologize. How would the sludge from the wastewater treatment plant be transported if it were to go forward and happen on this site? Would that be by truck, by pipeline?
Through you, it would not be through a pipeline, although that could be a pipeline dream. It would be trucks on the road.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Glenn?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I was reading in here about the potential location, and I'm noting that Dylan indicated there were no major barriers. However, what was written here was also that we're likely to need a stage 2 archaeological study. So could you just explain a little bit further about what a stage 2 archaeological study is, how long it will take, and given that there aren't tons of professional archaeologists in Ontario, are we going to be subject to any delays based on that archaeological study?
So through you, I think I might have to defer that question for tonight, but I do have some information here. So the recommendation is that we would have to move to a stage 2 and property assessment in accordance with the standards. And maybe I'll let Pete take over.
No, it's okay. Through you. So a stage 2 archaeological assessment is a normal practice for almost any site in Kingston. Stage 1 is a desktop exercise, and if there's any sort of hint or note of a potential, especially with I'm not so certain Sydenham Road or Perth Road is a historic road, but it has been there for probably over a century, so it might even just be because it's beside Perth Road. But there would be a limited amount of in soil work to do a grid pattern to look, and there are archaeological companies available. They aren't as readily available as others, but it's a normal process for a site investigation at this time.
So just to clarify, so the stage 2 study involves a survey and some digging, and then we're not concerned that we'll be delayed in any way. They'll be able to complete the work in a timely fashion here locally?
Yeah, through you, that's correct. And if they find something, then we have to go to the next step, but it's a routine assessment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from committee members? Councillor Tozo?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you, and I sincerely appreciate a biogas and biosolids report on this Valentine's Day. It was very good to get this report in. One thing in the report that was brought up was the next steps was a public information center to summarize the outcome of the Knox Farm suitability assessment. Can you just elaborate on what the public information center is? Is this just feedback from the public, or what does this look like?
Through you, the public center will be open to all of the public, and there will be notice that it's going on, and anybody would be able to attend.
Okay, so it's like just public engagement and consultation, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Shapes?
Thank you. I know I've read the report, and I understand that we're very early in this process, and I look forward to hearing from, more on this project as it progresses through, I guess, the years. But just to confirm, this is a positive step or aspect which goes along with the city's climate change crisis plan, correct?
Through you, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I had a question too. So compared to natural gas, what is the difference in environmental impact? And what is the environmental impact of this new method?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm Paul McClatchy, City's Environment Director. So it's not zero carbon emissions with renewable natural gas. There's still a carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emission, but it's part of the circular carbon cycle as opposed to petroleum carbon cycle, which is not. So a ton of GHGs that's emitted from a petroleum natural gas is avoided by burning a renewable natural gas instead. So it's not 0 versus 1, but it's, you know, it'll probably come out to something like 75 to 80% reduction in GHG emissions.
Thank you. So seeing no more questions from committee members, is there any questions from the public?
There's no public in attendance.
There is no public in
Nobody
attendance.
online, so we're good.
Okay, so now open up for comments and debate from the committee. You can still ask questions of staff, and you have a maximum of 5 minutes per member. Everybody's good? Are there, oh, Connie? Councillor Glenn?
Just have to get taller. Through you, Mr. Chair. So I am going to go back to the archaeology piece, but also the karst specialist piece. So, you know, I have looked this up, but just so that we're all aware of what a karst specialist actually is, and the fact that we need one, is that going to confound anything with the archaeology study that needs to be done?
Yeah, so very, it's still early, so we'd have to see what the stage 2 work, and we'll definitely, if any red flags come up, that's our job to come back to committee and council to talk about the site. And again, this is information, and not to mention the economic feasibility of the process, but the whole assessment of the site. This is a city-owned property, so that's why we're here together, working together. Utilities Kingston is running the program, but working under council's direction that this is a site that's been identified, but we have to vet all aspects of the site to bring it back for council.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that I'm kind of wrapping my head around the whole picture here, because as it moves forward, there's obviously going to be associated costs with that. And the longer a study goes on, the greater the cost. So just keeping that in mind as we're doing this, I'm in favor of moving forward, obviously, but just wanting to make sure that we understand what that's going to entail for us.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing as none. So as there is no recommendations, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is item B, update on managed forests for carbon sequestration. The report of the Commissioner of Business, Environment and Project, EITP 23-001. So can I ask for staff for an introduction of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So this is an information report, no recommendations provided, and the purpose of it is to provide an update on our managed forest program. Back in March of 2022, City Council approved the use of 3 unused city land parcels for the establishment of new managed forests. And these are managed forests with the primary purpose of sequestering atmospheric carbon as part of our climate change leadership program. The 3 properties are all rural properties, all located in the eastern part of Kingston. And within the 3 properties, they're capable of accommodating about 50,000 new trees. We're partnering on this with the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority because of their expertise in this type of rural tree planting. And through that partnership, we've been able to secure a significant subsidy grant from Trees Canada. It allows us to prepare the sites, or for the first 2 sites at least, it allows us to prepare the sites, plant the trees, and then do 3 years of follow-up monitoring on these sites for 10 cents per tree, which is quite significant. So the first 2 sites, the one's at Butternut Creek, off Butternut Creek Road, and the other one is an unlandfilled portion of land right beside our closed Kingston East landfill site. Both those sites have now been prepped and they're ready for planting. So that means they've been mowed. There's this one-time herbicide application that goes down some of the planting rows, and they'll be ready for planting this spring, probably in April, if late April, if conditions persist the way they are. The third site is the Pine Grove site. That is still needs some additional soil material, soil cover put on it, because it's very uneven, and the mechanical planters can't operate on that kind of an uneven surface. So we'll continue to put soil as we can get it from other projects and put it on that site and then level it out, and it'll be ready for planting hopefully in spring of 2024. One of the questions we often get is, what kind of species are we planting? It's a mix of coniferous species, so spruce, pine, cedar, what's the other one, larch. They go in, once those species mature, we can get in there and start adding hardwoods as well, because a greater diversity of species is not only good for the biodiversity of the forest, but it's also good to enhance the carbon sequestration in the forest. And I guess the only other thing I would say is that, although the expected carbon sequestration rates of these managed forests are not extreme, somewhere between 100 and 200 tons per year, probably once they're mature, the cost to do this kind of carbon reduction is really low when you compare it to other types of projects that we're also doing. Yeah, that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions from committee members? Councillor Stephen?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Again, really appreciate the information report. Thank you very much for that. You answered one of my questions already about why we weren't including hardwoods, and you said they're coming later. So that's great to hear because, I feel like the scientific community has proven how important biodiversity is. I'm sure you understand that as well. One of my questions, though, is why do we start with coniferous trees right off the hop? Is it because they have shallow root systems? Like, what's the thinking there?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. The coniferous trees are more amenable to establishing a new forest in an open area. Young seedling hardwoods would not survive very well in that kind of environment. They require canopy shade and protection and things like that. So the hardwoods would naturally progress in a forest as it grows from conifers to deciduous, and that's the way we intend to manage these.
Thank you. And you mentioned you'll be checking on the seedlings for the first 3 years or so. I was reading about you wanted, hopefully for 70% survival rate, I think is what I read. When would the hardwood trees be added then? Would it be after those 3 years?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So one of the things that we still have yet to create is the actual management plan for the forests. And we're doing that in consultation with an expert in managed forests and carbon sequestration. So we're going to have a management plan that says exactly, how we're going to manage these forests in terms of thinning and adding species. And there will be a time when certain species of hardwoods can go in, either at a seedling size or something larger maybe. Don't know what that is yet, but it's as the coniferous forest matures, then we'll have that opportunity. So I wouldn't expect it to be before 5 years.
Okay, and thank you. And not looking to micromanage, just still trying to figure out my role here and what all of us do. Is there a report that would come to council, or is that something specific that just staff would manage? Is that something that we can learn more about when it comes out?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, we could certainly bring more information to the committee if it's of interest. Absolutely. Either through a report to the committee or through council updates or.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Glenn?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report. I think this is a great project. I can't find where I read it in here, but there was reference to managed forest versus little forest, and it was a curiosity question. What is a little forest? What does that mean?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah. I'm not the expert on little forests. it's obviously it's a community group in Kingston that's very keen on these small, mostly urban forest plots that are created for all kinds of beneficial reasons. They approached us and asked us whether or not we would be interested in undertaking some research with them so we could compare the carbon sequestration performance of a little forest type planting plan versus this more kind of traditional rural mechanical planting of coniferous trees. And we said absolutely we'd be interested in doing that. And we've told them that there's a portion of the property that could be used for that purpose. They're working in conjunction with researchers at Queen's and looking for grant subsidies. I'm not sure if they're tremendously excited about the rural aspect of our project because they are more urban focused, but if they want to take us up on our offer, then we'll be glad to do that. And I'm not sure if that totally answers your question because I think you're looking at the, what is the difference between our managed forest and a little forest? I think a little forest is probably a lot more biodiverse right off the hop. And not mechanically planted, if you know what I mean. It's a small plot that's very hands-on planting style, whereas we're talking about hectares of planting and tens of thousands of trees, and that can't really be done that way.
Okay, thank you. I just had visions of a Smurf-like forest or something, so I wasn't sure what it meant. So thank you.
And next on my list, I had Councillor Shaves.
Thank you. And thank you for this report. I look forward to seeing it grow over the years. Just a few questions. A couple of them was mentioned there over landfills. Are any potentially considered to be a brownfield? And if they are, what kind of aspect would it have on the planting, such as not just the plants themselves, but also those who would be planting them?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So the Butternut Creek and the Kingston East landfill site properties are both, they're not brownfield sites. They've not been landfilled or anything like that. But the third site that we're continuing to add soil cover to is the Pine Grove site, which was a former township dump back in the Pittsburgh Township days of the 1960s and 70s. That site has a good thickness of clean soil cover on top of it. So we're not worried about planting into dirty soil. We have clean soil there, and we're going to add more soil to make it a level site, so it's going to be even thicker. So we're not expecting any conflict between the former landfill use and the survivability of trees or the safety of the people doing work on the site.
Thank you. It was also touched upon the survival rate of the plants and the saplings. It's beginning worse and worse in regards to vegetation in the area, having drier summers. I know the report stated 7% survival rate. How we could be able to manage, or even, I'm going to guess we won't be able to water them at this remote location. But will you be managing and supervising? Will there be a replanting stage if need be, if there's sufficient numbers that don't make it through the first year or first 3 years?
So through you, Mr. Chair, yes, you're correct. These managed forests are large in size with many, many trees, so there's no irrigation as part of our planting plan or management plan. They have to survive on their own merits with the weather that they get. That being said, if we were unfortunate enough to get a strong drought year early on, that might really impact survivability. And if that's the case, we go back in subsequent years and add new seedlings to replace seedlings that didn't make it.
Thank you. You also mentioned, and we read about herbicide being applied. Still trying to wrap my head around this. If we're trying to plant trees in those locations and we'd be digging up that area, what is the sort of reasoning for the use of pesticides and herbicides?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So our project partners at the CRCA recommend the use of a one-time spot application of a herbicide along planting rows. in the fall before the planting happens in the spring. And what that does is it knocks back those deep-rooted grasses and so forth that are they're gonna compete for water and sunshine with the seedlings themselves. We'd prefer not to use the herbicide. So what we've done in our project is we've designated numerous areas on each property where there's not going to be herbicide application so that we can compare the survivability rate between the herbicide and non-herbicide areas. And as we go forward with future projects, hopefully we can, what I'd like to see is that the survivability rate on the non-herbicide areas is still pretty good or good enough to proceed so that we don't have to do that in future projects, but that remains to be seen.
Okay, thank you. And also considering it's also in a rural area, I'm going to guess maintenance of the grounds won't be taking place, such as mowing, because I've had some constituents bring up concerns and reports in regards to the damage that weed whacking or cutting grass along right near the trees causes damage to the bases.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that we don't have any plans to mow these managed forests once they're established. So that shouldn't be a risk to the trees. The biggest risk is probably keeping unauthorized equipment off of these sites, and we're going to manage that through public awareness and signage and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Also, the report spoke to the beautification of Sir John A. And within the median, I understand that wildflowers were planted on the east side of Sir John A. between Princess and the Novellas entrance. Are there any plans, do you know, that of expanding this to other areas, such as the medians along Bath Road or others on Sir John A., which may also not help, well, also help with the sequestration of carbons in the area from the vehicles, but also may also reduce the amount of need to mow the grass in the medians.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair. So that's a great question for Commissioner Joyce. Next time you do talk to him, Councillor Shaves. The report was noting that just on the use of the tree replacement reserve fund, and that the bulk of the funds were dedicated into the urban area. So I do know that the Public Works has plans to keep expanding that median program, but I don't know the details.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next on my list, I had Councillor Tozo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The report listed a number of different programs that would draw down from the fund. One was the Tree Equity Program. For the life of me, I couldn't find anything on the city website, and I couldn't find anything in the report. I was hoping you could elaborate on this, because I'm familiar with the Neighborhood Tree Program, but the Tree Equity Program I haven't heard of before.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Councillor Tozo, was that regarding the Tree Equity Program?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So, again, that's another great question for Commissioner Joyce. However, which I did say to him at the end of the day, don't worry about coming, because if there are questions, it's not pertinent, with all due respect, directly to the Managed Forest Program. However, the Tree Equity Program, I believe the main principles are to make sure that there are trees spread out throughout the community and in all socioeconomic neighborhoods and areas, to ensure that there is a good spread of growth and trees throughout all neighborhoods and access to all of our society. I probably have not done it justice, but I do believe that is the main principles of it.
Hold on. Thank you, Chair, through you, and I take the fact that Commissioner Joyce isn't here, so thank you. This was an information report. The other one is that there was over $1 million accumulated in this fund from larger developments. Do we know how quickly that will be drawn down? Because and over what time frame are we talking about? It said swiftly, but time frame wise, how fast will that be?
Yeah, thank you, through you. So I think it's only within a couple of years, maybe 3, but Commissioner Joyce could confirm for you. Again, I apologize for passing that off, but it has built up rapidly very recently, and the goal is to get those funds spent as soon as possible with resourcing and planting seasons and spaces to actually plant trees and use that money so that it's at a more reasonable level of money in one year and out the other, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you. And thank you. I'm done.
And Councillor Rosenik?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. My question is, like a lot of the other councillors have asked my questions, which is terrific. Great minds think alike. But my one question is for the herbicide that was applied in November, was it a glyphosate or which? So like it's a Roundup. Is that the type of herbicide that was applied?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I understand it's a Roundup type herbicide, which I think is glyphosate, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thanks. And then one question through you, Mr. Chair, to our committee clerk. Since I'm just like a visitor, can I make comments or should I say a couple of comments right now that I have the floor?
You can make comments now or later if you want.
Okay, I'll save it for the comment section. Thanks.
So any other questions from councillors? Seeing as none. So are there questions from the public? No public. So now I open up the comment and debate portion of the meeting to the committee. Anybody want to have comments? Councillor Glenn?
Sorry, I guess it's through you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's a question/comment. So just, again, for further kind of education, seeing as we're all new to managed forests. So I'm assuming that there is a technical definition for forests, for the density of planting, et cetera. And so I do understand that the UN has some guidance on this. Are we using a particular formula in terms of planting this forest?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, the planting plan, such as it is as is recommended by the CRCA and Tree Canada. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is, but it's their optimum spacing for survivability and not having to thin too much going down the road.
I suspect that it's the UN approved one because that's what the federal government has adopted and it's on their site. But I was just curious, again, for kind of general information purposes, in case anybody's also listening, and I don't think so, but it doesn't hurt to know.
Councillor Rosenik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So yeah, thanks so much, Mr. McClatchy, right, for the pilot project, right? I totally appreciate how you'll have one site that has had the glyphosates and then also using another area without the glyphosates and looking to see how the trees survive. I think that's really smart and I really like that idea. Like that is just perfect. Like the less chemicals we can put in the environment, the better. So that's awesome. About the survivorship, right, of the trees. Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what happens because the spring plantings don't really get the same tree survival rate as the fall plantings, but I'm happy to see that some of the trees will get replanted if they don't survive. But if we could be kept current as council, like with those information reports to council, that would be most appreciated. For the Little Forest, that's managed by, not a managed forest, but Little Forest is managed by Joyce Hostin, who presented to us at council last week about No Mow May. And she wanted to give a summary of what Little Forest is to all of council. So I think I'll remind her to, do that summary pretty soon so that we're all up to speed. And then about the tree equity program, just totally unrelated, but Director Karen Santucci called me at lunchtime today about something completely different, but ended the conversation by saying that the tree equity program, she was just finalizing it. She was just finalizing it. And Councillor Tozo, I know that you're going to be getting a lot of the trees in that tree equity program, because when they did the urban forest management, what percentage across Kingston has trees, it was your district was one of the ones, and also too, Mr. Chair, your district that had, and I think too, Councillor Ridge, they had the 3 lowest, and so Director Santucci said that the tree equity program is just about ready to be rolled out, and that is different than the neighborhood tree planting program. So thanks everyone for your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, so now we're done with the business. So there's no motions, no notices of motions, no other business, and there is no correspondence. So the date of the next meeting will be Tuesday, April 11th at 6 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Stephen and seconded by Councillor Shaves. All in favor? I think we're good. Yeah. All right. Well, have a good night, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.